For some fields of science, photographs are important pieces of evidence. They can be photos of cells or tissues, for example, or of Western blots, a technique for identifying proteins that produce ink-like blobs. These images support conclusions that are influential in everything from drug development to basic research on diseases. This suggested that the evidence in this paper had been manipulated, calling into question the study's conclusions. This one small discovery kicked off what would eventually become Bick's new career. Program is just one of many data sleuths who examine data in scientific papers, looking for patterns and problems. And there are a lot of problems to potentially find. No one knows exactly how much scientific misconduct is out there in published literature, but Retraction Watch, a blog that tracks papers pulled for a variety of issues, has documented an uptick in retracted papers in the last 2 decades. A recent survey of clinical trials found flawed data in more than 40% of the studies analyzed, not necessarily due to outright misconduct, but it raises suspicions.
Some of the sleuths who look for these flaws do their work anonymously, on forums like PubPeer, potentially to avoid legal or professional repercussions. Just this year, a group of data sleuths known as Data Colada were sued for defamation when they posted a series of investigations into strange inconsistencies in some behavioral science data. Though some journals employ statistics screeners, many researchers do this work outside the typical science publishing ecosystem. They don't work for academic journals, their evaluations are not a part of the peer review process.
On the latest episode of Unexplainable, Vox's podcast about exploring unknowns, we look at that Data Colada story and at why our scientific system is so reliant on independent sleuths like these to identify potentially manipulated data in scientific papers. We also look at how journals and other institutions might do a better job of preventing and disincentivizing flawed science. Manipulation is pervasive enough to call into question many research findings. Do you have a personality that makes this fun for you? Or is there something that makes you suited to this particular task?
Peer review is an unpaid job that most PhDs or professors do in their free time. They sort of quickly look through a paper, quickly see if there's something wrong with it scientifically, but they don't really look at it from the point of view that it could be misconduct, that it could be fraud. If you really want to do fraud detection, that's a specialized job. I do feel all of us are doing science out of this ideology that we want to cure cancer. We want to solve pandemics. We want to do a better job. Second, we're not in the subscriptions business.
Tahitian cultural expert and founding member of Hururu, an environmental conservation association, explains that in the Polynesian worldview, humans are an integral part of the natural environment. For our ancestors, the earth was the first to intercede on their behalf, to help them in their endeavor. Divine authority sets the Rawi with the consent and collaboration of the people. It is a form of conservation, but it also serves many other, perhaps more important, purposes, such as to boost political power, strengthen community relationships, and reaffirm religious rituals.
Such as the one initiated on Tautira in 2019, is showing how culturally sensitive conservation that engages locals has the potential to create lasting change. Inhabitants in French Polynesia support the creation of a Rawi, higher than the support for other legal conservation methods like protected marine areas. The Rawi was opened temporarily with great success, and local fishers noticed a significant increase in fish numbers enough to convince them that a sustained Rawi would continue to preserve fish numbers, and fish would always be available in the islands.
Countless hours of community meetings and compromises eventually led to an agreement, and a coastal Rawi was officially implemented in 1984, encompassing the island's biggest bay, Ahiriai. The entire bay became a closed zone, where spearfishing and night fishing were banned, but line and harpoon fishing, techniques considered more sustainable, were permitted. The community banned net fishing and caged trapping of lobsters everywhere, including in the open zone outside of the bay, where there were fewer restrictions.
Today, French Polynesia has an estimated 20 or so Rawi on 7 islands, and more are planned. Some, like Tihupu, have seen great success, though Bambridge is quick to point out that many Rawi in the Pacific fail because of a lack of proper planning at the outset for the community to decide on techniques and limits they all agree on. Some Rawi even result in a notable decrease in fish biomass after the Rawi is lifted, and fishing resumes. The fish increase at first, but then they become overfished. What does it take to implement a successful Rawi in the 21st century?
Located in a quiet part of Tahiti, in French Polynesia, the village of Tautira sits on the ocean's edge, framed by black sand beaches and a turquoise lagoon. With a population of just over 2,500, Tautira is known as the village at the end of the road. Beyond it is the island's last truly wild coastline, accessible only on foot or by boat. Tautira is the kind of place where everyone is an auntie or uncle, smiles are generous, and kids play soccer on the street. Some families here still live off the land, selling fish, fruits, and vegetables by the road to make ends meet.